Hi, I'm Emily with Threaded Journey, and today I'm going to be making the Gracie pattern by the Bold One. I love the Bold One patterns because they come with so many different options for them. Different necklines, different sleeve lengths, different skirt lengths. They're so fun to make. As I'm making this pattern, I'm going to show you some simple tips and tricks that are going to make it even more beginner friendly than the regular pattern instructions show. The fabric I'm going to be using today is a queen size flat sheet. A sheet is a great way to make a pattern for the very first time, especially one that requires a lot of fabric. If you will notice on the layout instructions that some of these pieces are laid out upside down. So you need to make sure that your fabric is either a solid or a non-directional pattern, which means you can put it any way and the pattern is still right side up. If you have a pattern that needs to all go in one direction, then you need to purchase more fabric than is suggested. I have chosen to make the long sleeve length with the shirred cuff, and I'm going to make the V-neck. All right, I've cut out my pattern pieces. The skirt is front and back are going to both be the same, and they're going to be on the fold line. Just pick your length. I am 5'4", but I want mine to go to my knee instead of above my knee. So I'm just going to make the longest and I can adjust the hem as needed. I made some changes to the neck of my pieces. So on my front piece, I have raised the V-neck up about 3 inches. I just made sure that I came back and started at the spot up here, so I didn't take off any of the shoulder width at all. And then I'm just taping my cutoff piece to my bodice, so I'll have that for later. For the back, because I raised up this V, I cut down a centimeter off the high square back, just so it's a little lower and I have a little bit more headroom since I raised the neck up. There again, I did not change anything off the shoulder, so they will still match when I put them together. You're gonna cut out 2 of each of the bodice pieces. One would be your facing piece and one is your main top piece. They're exactly the same. After I did my Freddie video, I had some people ask, what do you think about making a smaller facing? So I did a whole video on just trying out to see if that would work instead of it being fully lined. And it does work. So if you don't have a lot of fabric, this is a great way to save some fabric. So we're going to be making smaller facing pieces, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did that. And if you would like to watch the video of where I tried it out, you can watch that here. I'm going to line this up right here with my scrap piece of paper. I'm going to come about 1.5 inches over. I'm going to follow this line exactly. Then I'm going to come down 1.5 inches. Okay, so this is going to be my back facing, and I'll have a fold line. So I now have a back bodice and a back facing. I'm going to do the same thing for the front. Front facing, and this will be my fold. Okay, that little piece right there will be my fold. It will match my front piece. So that is what I'm going to do. It helps with the amount of fabric that you need, time, and just makes it a little bit more simple not to have to match up those darts in your front pieces. If you made the Freddie or Rossi version from the Bold One and you've already made a waist strap, you probably did the wing, cut it out separately, and attached it and all the things. You can watch at minute 4:30 on my Freddie video exactly how to do that. When I did my Rossi video, I realized that all I needed to do was to tape this wing to the waist strap and cut it out all together. You can see the difference here between the two. The Freddie is the full regular pattern made. The Rossi, I cut the wing and the wrap together and made it 1 inch smaller. In this remake of using the Freddie Rossi pattern, I did not use the wing and I made it 1.5 inches more narrow. That'll help you decide what maybe your body needs for the wrap. For this sew along, I'm going to go ahead and attach my wing to my pattern piece so that I can cut it out all at one time. Also going to be removing 1 inch from the width. If you don't have a whole lot of your main fabric, you can do your waist strap out of something coordinating. You can save a lot of fabric if you just do the short sleeve and do the elastic. I've already cut off my extra pieces here and just saved them. I also am removing 1 inch from the width, and that'll make it just a little bit less puffy and will fit my wrist a little bit better. I have a pretty small wrist, so this was going to be a little bit too big for me. The opening to the pocket bag is pretty small. When you consider your seam allowances on each side, it's a tight fit for your hand to go in. So you may want to create a bigger pocket bag. I personally have made my own pocket bag just to use from now on. That's what I'm going to use today. Now that all my pattern pieces are like I want them and I've got them all cut out, it's time to start sewing. The first instruction is just sewing our waist strap. I'm going to take mine and serge it, but if you have a problem turning it on, especially on this little tip end, if you will cut it at a slant so that the seam allowance is not hanging over the tip, it will help you with turning that corner. My waist straps are turned and pressed. A later step is to baste the end just to make it a little bit easier when you go to stitch it into the side seam. So I just went ahead and did that here. As you're cutting everything out, don't forget to make your little marks at different places. Any of those, do a snip or a little mark, either one. And the same is going to be on this dart. What I did was I punched a little hole right here and I made that little dot. Then I took the little middle point right there, lined it up with the dot, drew a line. My little snips that I had made that were right here, same thing. I'm going to draw my line to my dot. I did that on both of them. Did 1 centimeter, put that at the little dot and marked that point. That's going to make it easier to stitch. I creased it on that middle line. Make sure that your crease line is going to be what is on the inside of your sewing machine. So this side's going to be up. Make sure you put your pins in correctly. I have placed a pin right here at the edge and then a couple right here, making sure that the pin is also lined up with the other side. Now, as we stitch, we're going to stitch right along here. Come down, aim for that line that I made and sew off, ending at the pin. My machine is set all at normal. My needle is lined up with the line that the pins were on. And I'm going to put my needle down. And I'm going to backspace just like normal. And I'm going to stitch right along that line. And I'm aiming for that line that I drew, which is this pin right here. And I'm just going to stitch off. Now, I'm not going to cut. If your machine cuts itself, don't cut. Raise your needle up and pull a string. Then, I'm going to make sure it looks okay on both sides. And if it does, you're going to take your little ends right here, untwist them because they'll be twisted, and then just do a little knot and clip it. Now we need to press our dart. I have a little tailor's ham that helps, but you can also use the edge of a pillow, a rolled up towel, anything that has a curve to it. So you're gonna do your dart up towards the top because that's where your little part right here lines up better. So we're just gonna place it on our ham with the curve, and you see how I can smooth it out with my hand. And I'm just gonna come along and press it smooth. And I should not have any really point right there at all. It should press out very smooth. Two beautiful darts. And that's what they look like inside. Our next instructions is to sew our shoulder seams together. So we're going to put right sides together. So my main bodice pieces, have my main bodice right side up, back, front. And I have done a fold line down the middle of each of those points. That makes it easier to line up. Same thing for my facing. So whether I had a whole second one of these or I had the smaller facing, exactly the same. So I'm just going to line it up. So helps to have that little crease there, just because you can match it up. Same thing here. Line up the bottom of that V. So maybe I'll probably get a pin. And line up your shoulder seams. I pressed my shoulder seam of my back facing to the front, and my main bodice piece, it's finished and pressed to the back. I chose to hem my smaller facing. As long as you finish it off in some way, it's up to you. You do not have to hem it, but you do need to do something to the raw edges. All right, now I'm just going to clip this in all the way around. Should just be a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, I'm all clipped in here. If you have a hard time turning the corner, mark your seam allowance as to where you're gonna turn, even on your V. Just mark your 1 centimeter, so that would be your stitch line, and then your stitch line going back up. I'm now going to clip my corners. I will stitch my seam allowance to my facing. I'm just going to show you what mine looks like. It's not the neatest of stitching, but I pressed that seam allowance up into the facing and then stitched on top, making sure that this was flat, and just stitched a little bit away from that original seam line. To make it easier, I did this as a stitch, then this is a stitch line, then this is a stitch line. That way I'm not trying to make a turn around those cuts. You should be able to do a really nice press, pressing in your facing, whether it's a full facing or just a small facing. The pattern instructions do not say to top stitch. You can top stitch even if you do a full facing if you would like to. You probably should do a top stitch if you did a small facing. This will just keep it from flipping up. Your full facing will be caught in your side seam allowance, and so you won't have that issue at all. Okay, there's mine, top stitched, darts in, ready for the next step. Have that one clipped on. I'm going to line this one up right with it. Then I'm going to line this up. Okay, that should make sure that my pockets will line up when I sew my side seams. I need to finish off this part of my pocket now that I have got it sewn in. So the way I'm going to do that is I clipped right next to it, just up to my seam allowance. I'm folding this part of my skirt out of the way. And I'm going to put this up under my presser foot. And when I get down to the bottom, I'll fold this part out of the way. Now that part is finished and I don't need to worry about it. And I'll get the rest of it when I sew my side seams together. I have put in my gather stitches in the skirt. A little tip is to use different colored thread for your bobbin and your top thread. It's a good chance to use up thread that you don't need anymore. And then I also went ahead and did my sleeves as well. It's time to shear the bottom of our sleeves. You're going to need some elasticated thread. There's not a lot on here if you're going to need to practice, so you might get 2 tubes. Strongly suggest practicing. So I tried 2 different methods of shearing. Her suggestion in the video and in the instructions are that you go ahead and make the sleeve and then stitch it in the round. So I tried that. I first tried putting it on the arm. There's really not enough room to shear it that way. I stopped after 2 rounds of that, and actually it's cute with just 2 rows of stitches. So you can decide how many rows of stitches you want. If you want to stop at just 2, you do what you want for this. Then I turned it and stitched it with an inside out, and it did okay. It was a struggle for sure, and mine kind of came out diagonally. They didn't come out straight. So I know if I was wearing this, even though it looks okay, my sleeve is gonna be twisted, if that makes sense. I tried another method, and it's just to lay it out flat, not already have your sleeve together, then stitch it, then sew up your sleeve. And ultimately, that is what I have decided to do. I strongly suggest a test if you've never done it before, or even with this pattern, to make sure that it's going to be the right size for you. It'll also let you know if you want to do more or less of the shearing. I have my sleeve laid out flat, and I'm marking my seam allowance on each side. So I'm just going to run a 1 centimeter line down each side. To make it easier to sew a straight line, I'm going to mark my stitch rows. So I'm going to start 1 centimeter from my hem. Then I'll just continue moving up and drawing a line 1 centimeter apart until I have marked as many rows of stitches as I want to do. I'm going to start here, back stitch, come down, turn, stitch here, turn, come back, stitch up, turn, back and forth until I end and back stitch. You have your bobbin. There's a fine line of getting it too tight and too loose. So you just have to practice with it a little bit. Putting it in your bobbin case is going to be exactly the same way you normally would, except for mine typically will thread it up itself. It's not easy to do with this elasticated. So instead, just keep a really long tail there and just do it the old-fashioned way. So I'm just going to keeping a tug on my regular thread at the top and pulling it up. And then I'm going to give it a little help here. Once I have the bobbin pulled through, then I can put my top on. I'm going to go ahead and put my presser foot down just to keep it from falling in. You're going to want to do a test strip that is just one thickness. Put it under, down. Make sure your length is at a 4. Put your needle down. Back stitch just like you normally would. You do a little bit of stitching, back stitch. Don't use your cutter. Mine doesn't like that. So yours may be okay. Mine did not like it. Now we're just checking to make sure that our bobbin thread is straight. That means the bobbin was wound correctly. See how it is all loose and wiggly and all of that? That is not wound tight enough. I have my sleeve with my grid mark, and I'm going to start right at the seam allowance line and the first grid line. Elasticated thread in the bobbin, and I have my regular thread in the top. I'm going to backspace. And it feels already like it's pulling, but I'm just going to double check the back. Make sure it all looks good. And I have a straight line back there. And keep going. When you get to that seam allowance, then you're going to pick your presser foot up, turn it. Stitch up to the next line. Back down. Make sure you keep it flat. Okay, when I get to the end this time, that's my 6th row. I'm just going to do a few back spaces, needle up, and there's my awesome shirring. It's pretty straight. Looks good. So proud of it. So this is just what it looks like on the side. To finish off the shirring, you're going to want to steam it. This one has been steamed, and it's just a little bit smaller than this one. Not a lot, but a little bit. That just finishes the elasticated part of the shirring. If you have a full bodice, the instructions say to just stitch to the front, and then you're gonna come back later and stitch this. It's kind of complicated. So what I chose to do, I practiced it. I sewed it just to the front, and then I just hemmed my facing and did a little stitch on each side just to kind of secure it. But I didn't try to do the whole complicated stitching it again on top. I just chose not to do that. For my back, I put them both together and stitched it as one. If you followed my instructions and did smaller facings, you don't even have to worry about it because you don't have the full lining to worry about. So this is my right side, and I have my skirt, and I have done my little iron crease at the center of both of them. I'm going to put a pin here. And now that my gathers are in and nice and neat, I'll stitch. Now I'll just pull out my gather stitches. To make sure I get my waist straps in the right place, I just use safety pins and pin all the way down the side seams, putting in my waist strap where I think I want it to go, and then I can try it on. I have this waist wrap almost to the top of the underarm here. This one is about 1.5 inches, maybe closer to 2 inches down, and comes down this much below the waistline. I am going to split the difference between the two and do it about 1 inch below the armhole, and I think it will be perfect. I'm choosing to do my sleeve a little bit differently. I've clipped it right here at the armhole. I've done my center of my sleeve to the shoulder seam of my bodice, clipped it over here, matched up my slits, and then gathered in between until it is nice and round. Now I'm going to sew that in. Doing this method, I'm going to sew the sleeve and the side seam all at one time. Remember to stop, pick back up at this part and go down, then come back and stitch your pocket. Look how cute this turned out. Sleeves turned out great. They're not twisted. So cute. Like I said, I'm 5'4". I kept it at the longest length and hemmed it like 1 centimeter. The Gracie Wrap Dress turned out so cute. And my mind is just going with all kinds of other things that I can do with this pattern, including making the Lydia top. Make sure you follow me here at Threaded Journey to see what other great patterns we can sew together.